The Garden Report is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Celtics winners 128-120 over the Hawks here in Atlanta. Love this game from Boston. An intense environment here. This crowd was going nuts in the fourth quarter, particularly when the Hawks built a 7-point lead, I believe, at its largest, and forced the Celtics to make plays here. Double Jason Tatum. Pack the paint at times to take that away from the Celtics. The offensive rebounding, we saw it all series. The threes increased, particularly Trae Young's aggressiveness pulling up from deep. Bogdanovich killed them throughout. You had cutters emerging, and John Collins, who made life difficult for Boston's back line, got Al Horford into foul trouble early in this game. I can list off probably 10 ways the Hawks made life hard on the Celtics in this series. So let me balance two things here as we take away from a 6-game win for the Celtics. I came into this series thinking it'd be 5, thinking it'd be fairly smooth sailing, and how could you not after the first 2 games? Blowout wins where, the Hawks made up some ground in the second half, but it never really was close. A 30-point lead in Game 1, 22-point lead in Game 2. Game 3, you slip up, the Hawks get hot. In Game 4, Jaylen Brown breaks the offense loose late and wins it in crunch time. Then the debacle in Game 5 strikes, and you're saying, all right, the Celtics shot themselves in the foot, blew a huge opportunity here, had to play another game. All that's still valid. I have concerns about the Celtics' pace. I have concerns about Tatum's shooting, which continued here in Game 6. I have concerns about the back end of the rotation. Is Grant Williams here to stay? We discussed that in our other video, but he largely got rendered a DNP in this series, and you saw the always difficult decision of managing Derek White, Marcus Smart, and Malcolm Brogdon's minutes here. Those were some of my biggest concerns coming into the playoffs. They all played out in this series. What I don't think we gave enough credit to is how well Quinn Snyder could exploit some of Boston's weaknesses and put a ton of pressure on them at all times, whether it was Young getting up all those threes. The offensive rebounding, I think, constantly challenged the Celtics, made the series physical. At one point, almost knocked Marcus Smart out, falling on his back. He bounced back nicely from that. And all the doubles and looks, if you go back, I wrote about it this morning for CLNS Media, they switched Young out of some actions and created some indecisiveness for the Celtics in this series that I think challenged Tatum as a decision maker. And Tatum dished 7 assists, no turnovers tonight. Was it his best game? No. But I ultimately think it served him well to see all these double teams, see defenders coming from weird angles, and some scram switches that left defenders he didn't expect on him. Tatum had some good reflection on what this series did for him from a playmaking perspective tonight. Here's what he had to say about how his playmaking grew over the course of this series.
Like I said earlier, shoot around, playing with pace and making the right play, whether that was early in the shot clock, milking it down. And I think, we did a better job today of not being stagnant, right? A lot of those pick and rolls, they blitz in, I get isolation, they blitz, hit Smart. He had a couple layups and kickouts to Al, right? Just creating an advantage in late game situations instead of always, getting a switch, ISO. There's times for that, but our offense is most dynamic when we're all moving, cutting, passing up good shots with great shots.
Now, Jaylen Brown also praised the Hawks, said maybe from an X's and O's standpoint, they weren't the strongest, but they tried, and they competed, and they fought. And that's ultimately what he thought this series brought out of the Celtics, was a fight. Al Horford had a massive go-ahead 3, and I just loved his performance tonight. 10 points, 12 rebounds, foul trouble early, struggled guarding Young, almost looked like Young would play him off the floor. Then they put him in some different coverages, threw some doubles at Young that got the ball out of his hands, and just switched up the defense repeatedly, and I think Joe Mazzulla deserves some credit for that. Keeping Horford in this game up to 30 minutes to the point where he gets a putback to go midway through the fourth quarter, hits a go-ahead 3 at 113, and then points to the crowd. I didn't know if he was pointing to the Hawks bench or the crowd or whatever it was. Said someone was heckling him, said something, he didn't want to reveal what it was. but he took it personally. And so that just brought one of those Al moments. You had one early in this series where he's pumping his fists. You had one late where he's pointing at the crowd here in Atlanta. And, of course, Tatum builds on that with a putback dunk on his ensuing miss. Horford's in the corner. And a step-back three that I thought slammed the door on this game. Smart added 2 more baskets late. And you found your lineup late. Al, Grant, Tatum, Brown, and Smart. Ultimately, what puts the Hawks away, 128-120. Respect to Atlanta. Jalen said it. I think across the board, the Celtics felt that way coming out of it. This is a series the Celtics needed to play. And what ended up being a sweep, or what many expected to be a sweep, turned into a competitive 6-game series that I think is going to help Boston grow into the ensuing series. That's all for now. Celtics All Access, CLNS Media, for all the post-game reaction out here. We also talked about Grant Williams and how he could help Boston into the next series. Were you disappointed with this one going a little long? Or do you think it will be good for Boston in the long run? Let me know below. And this has been the Garden Report in State Farm Arena. Thanks for following all our coverage out here, and we'll see you at TD Garden on Monday for Game 1.
The Garden Report is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/garden today to get 10% off your first month. This edition of the Garden Report is also brought to you by Athletic Greens. Visit athleticgreens.com/garden for a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.